The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Hooray for Hollywood, where stars are living large, in mansions with their servants and their credit cards in charge, with fame that's fleeting, but the egos never change, where everyone's a genius, except the ones who really arrange. Hooray for Hollywood, where the scandals always sell, where every whispered secret is a new tabloid's tell. Oh, how we adore the endless red carpet galore. Hooray for Hollywood, where less is always more.
Yes, indeedy, lemon squeezy. Less is always more here on Damn You Hollywood.
We certainly hope that philosophy holds true, otherwise we're in real trouble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast, Damn You Hollywood. And I'm only moving them up there, not for sexist reasons, but because it's easier when I do this. There's your host, Tim.
Just stop.
How hard is it to turn your fingers, Mark?
Okay, look,
I have this by now.
When you start doing the blue meanie dance, we know we've just you passed the point.
Yeah.
And that's what you were doing there at the end.
Yeah. Robert Winfree, yay!
Hey, everybody. So I'm Robert. That's Mark. We have with us for the first time in a handful of weeks, Alexis Hejna. Alexis, nice to see you again. How you doing?
I was gonna say it's been a while since I've been on the show.
I don't think that is that the first time you've heard the new Damn You Hollywood theme?
Yeah, it is actually. I looked up for a second. I was like, oh shit, they changed everything on me.
Oh my god, I don't recognize a thing about the place.
You were replaced with AI for a little bit there.
Of course, I was.
So that was the result of sessions between Jesse and I.
It's an AI
muted yourself, but I actually want your opinion. I know
I'll give you my opinion. I'll just talk when my dog's not barking.
Sounds perfect. So, what do you think of the new theme?
The coughing had nothing to do with you. I'm just getting over a cold.
I hear you.
No, it's cute. I still wish you'd let me do more of the artwork instead of using AI, just because I think we're trying not to piss off legions of other people. But
I don't stop you if you submit something to me. Like, you don't need my permission. You can just listen. I got people like sending me things I don't want. Gratuitous pictures, memes. People send me stuff all day long, and I don't want
care
any
what
of it.
Patrick is sending you. I'm talking about what I can contribute.
Bang bang! You zinged him and he wasn't even here. All right, Robert, what are we talking about tonight?
Well, we're talking about everyone's favorite Disney direct-to-DVD sequel, Aladdin 2. No, sorry.
Okay, this was bad, but it was not Return of Jafar bad, okay? There was at least some effort and much more of a budget. The writers and staff, of course, didn't see that budget, but that's neither here nor there, and I know we will get to that.
Well, yeah, we'll get to that one. In fairness to Return of Jafar, it actually has a couple of songs I really like. But we're talking about Moana 2.
Yay. Moana 2 is a movie.
Hey.
It is a 2024 American animated musical adventure film produced by the Walt Disney Animation Studios for Walt Disney Pictures. It is the sequel to Moana, of course.
One would hope.
2016. It's a sequel to Aladdin. What? And the second installment in the Moana franchise.
That's just not.
The film was directed by David Derrick Jr., Jason Han, and Dana Ledoux Miller in their feature directorial debuts, and produced by Christina Chen and Yvett Merino from a screenplay by Jared Bush and Miller. Everyone comes back who was in the previous one. It adds Nicole Scherzinger, Rachel House, and Alan Tudyk. No, they all reprised their roles in their previous films. It adds...
It's like, God bless Disney for not replacing Alan Tudyk as Hey Hey the Chicken.
Even though all he does is cluck and scream.
Sometimes
First
all
time
you
I
need.
saw Moana, I had to explain to my family why it was so awesome that Alan Tudyk was voicing the chicken. They're just like, all he does is cluck. Why do you got like? You just don't get it. You don't get why this is so great.
Okay, so Hualālai Chung, Rose Matafeo, David Fane, and other people were also who joined the cast. All right, so hot take, ladies and gentlemen. Robert and I, this isn't the hot take, but I'm going to get there. Robert and I reviewed the 2016 Moana right
Yes,
here
we
in
did.
Damn You Hollywood. I don't suggest you listen to it. The audio is garbage.
I would say
However-
this was pre my time, I believe.
Yeah, it was back in the it was in the Blog Talk Radio days where I'm about to leave Blog Talk Radio for Spreaker because I can't. The audio keeps cutting in and out, and it's just all bad news all day long.
Yeah.
But what I was able to gather from that was we gushed about Moana. I mean, we had a couple of nitpicks here and there, and I think there's a discussion at some point during the review of what we would have liked to have seen them do a little bit better. I think there was some stuff about Maui we wish that they had dug deeper into, but for the most part, I said at the time, and I'm going to double down on this, this was an exceptionally good Walt Disney animated princess feature. And as I look back, and I can actually bring up the list if you guys want to doubt me on this, but I did my homework this time and came prepared for class with a pencil teacher. This is the best animated Disney, not Pixar. This is animated Disney film across
And again,
that they've done since 2016. There hasn't been a single animated theatrical feature since Moana that has been as good or better.
Okay,
I was going to say, if I may, I will just say this. When I left Frozen, saw it on Thanksgiving with my family,
Mm-hmm.
I walked out saying, well, that was okay, but did you see that Get a Horse short that was before that? That was amazing. I walked out of Moana, again on Thanksgiving with my family, and after arguing with them about Alan Tudyk as the chicken, I promptly went home and pulled up the soundtrack so I could listen to the music again because it had been ages since I saw a musical that made me just want to continue listening to the music. I was just like, oh my God, I want more of this. I couldn't remember the last time I felt that joy at watching a movie.
Yeah, I meant to ask you, what did you think of Moana the first time you saw it? So it sounds like you gave it pretty high marks.
Very high marks. And I still say it's better than Frozen.
It is
All
better
right,
than Frozen.
Frozen's a very poor story. It's just got like 2 catchy songs that everybody and their dog likes to sing.
To be clear, Frozen also came out in 2013. Like I said, my statement was it's the best they've done since, and this is now the year of our Lord 2016 in the month November.
Okay, and you said they haven't done anything as good as Moana since Moana.
I am talking about in theater and the Walt Disney Company,
Yeah.
not
No,
Pixar
I-
or any of their subsidiaries. That is my hot take.
I understand the qualifications you put on
Okay.
your statement. So
Okay.
you said you have it, so run through the rest of the list. I want to see if I agree with you.
All right, let's do this. I'm fucking ready. No, all right. So we have Moana, November 23rd of 2016. I'm going to read through the list here. You guys are able to keep up with me and play your instruments just as fast as I'm going to play, so that if I say something, you're not going to sit there and be like, which studio is that? You fucking know your movies, right?
Yeah.
I would hope so.
So let's rip it. Cars 3, Coco, Incredibles 2, Ralph Breaks the Internet. That's its first major competitor, and the answer is it's better than Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Pretty easily.
I still stand by that Wreck-It Ralph was far better than Ralph Breaks the Internet. So,
Well, that's I don't care for Wreck-It Ralph as much as others, but yes.
I'm more. It's my gamer
Mhm.
background.
Wreck-It Ralph was 2012, by the way.
Yeah.
So again, the line of demarcation between North and South Korea is 2016. All right, moving on. Toy Story 4. But they're counting The Lion King because it's photorealistic animation. Still sucks.
I love that they could say it's live action or it's animated. It's like whatever saddle they want to ride. It's like, that technically
it is
counts.
like a cheap prostitute. It's whatever you want it to be, baby. Ugh.
Yeah.
Funny, I think that's what we're calling Mufasa now. God, I am not looking forward to that.
Saw the first full trailer for that ahead of this one. Looks like garbage. Saw the first Snow White trailer.
Yes.
Boy, is that nightmare
I don't
fuel.
Oh my God.
I don't want to get distracted, but yeah, we're gonna have a hell of a.
Well,
Can we talk about that trailer later on in this
Yeah,
review,
later.
please?
Let's get through
During the
this.
money,
Let's get through this
again.
point, and then yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said.
Yeah, we're gonna kick that into section 2 here, but right, moving on. Frozen 2, which is okay, but it's again not as good as Moana, and definitely wasn't.
Brilliant
as good as the first one.
animation. That's the only thing I give credit for. I still remember when the first teaser dropped for Frozen 2, there were a couple of shots I said, holy shit, that's animated? That looks like real life. So,
Right.
you know me. I give credit where credit's due, but I believe when I left the theater after seeing that, I said, okay, so we're going to call that coincidences and pretty dresses. Got it.
Yeah.
Spies in Disguise, and now we're into COVID. Onward, Raya the Last Dragon, Ron's Gone Wrong, Encanto, Bob's Burgers, Lightyear, Strange World, Elemental, Wish.
Okay.
Really liked Encanto, but I will say, while as good as it is, Moana is a little bit better.
Yeah, the only legitimate competition for your statement is Encanto.
And I will tell you, based on the review we gave it at the time, having not gone back and watched it since, I'm going to stand by my statement. Moana. I think Moana edges out. I'm going to say it differently every time I say Moana.
I was going to say, should I have a running tally of how many ways you pronounce the movie?
Moana is a much prettier movie than Encanto was. Now, that might be by design. Encanto was a different kind of movie than Moana was going for, but a pretty girl is a pretty girl, and and a decent looking girl is a decent looking girl, and if it doesn't really matter that the decent looking girl is smarter, the pretty girl is still pretty. Moana, go back and watch that movie. I don't think Robert and I gushed about strictly the look and feel of the nature of a movie since The Good Dinosaur. That's how good it is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's quite a stretch. They haven't made a decent movie in 8 years.
They haven't gotten above Moana in 8 years. Moana is above average.
Yeah.
But you are correct that, I mean, when you went through that list, like there's one that's maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the other is like, no, it's not especially close. I mean, for crying out loud, Wish was a catastrophe on so many levels.
Yeah.
God, Disney is trying so hard to sweep that under the rug.
And if you're listening to that list, he's like, well, he rattled off a whole bunch there. A lot of that stuff is Pixar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say Coco was Pixar, and I'll argue that Coco was one of Pixar's greatest.
Oh yeah,
ever.
If I have to compare Moana to anything Pixar did, and I take the qualifier out that it had to be first run theatrical because it's not fair what happened to Soul.
Yeah.
Soul was the victim of a worldwide pandemic and a lockdown.
Still a absolutely beautiful and brilliant movie that takes my breath away.
But also, we just named 2 Pixar movies. And I think there's something to be said, and we can move on after this, but I think there's something to be said for Walt Disney Studios because of changes in talent, staff, if you go by Midnight's Edge and, Andre's constant beating of the same drum, DEI, whatever the reasons are, it is, I think, an interesting thing to point out. They were never able to, within that studio, never able to top themselves after Moana 2. God knows they've tried.
Yeah, it is a weird thing that after 2016, they've had a really bad stretch in the animated department in general.
And then, it is almost as if, catastrophically blew up with Wish. As if they knew, it's like they Daffy Ducked in the devil outfit. It's like, we're not getting any better than this. Let's fuck it, just blow ourselves up.
Wish is kind of the nadir of the underlying philosophy behind so many of Disney's animated projects of the last 5 years. I mean, we just went through them all.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It doesn't get more that than Wish. For some really man, have you seen some of the early? I remember the year after Wish came out, so we're post-morteming this thing. And somebody had hey, here's some of the early concept art, and here's some of the early story designs that were like the falling star was supposed to be a boy that she kind of falls in love with.
Right.
And the queen was supposed to be just as evil as the king. We were going to have our first evil couple.
And like that's better than what we got in every way.
There are people clamoring to say it's like release enough of the early concept art and enough of the early drafts that we can freaking thief and carpenter or thief and cobbler this shit together. You know what I mean?
I'm well aware of what you're referencing there.
It took me a second to remember the professions there. It's like, but you get what I'm saying.
I do. I've seen Persistence of Vision. It's
just to close out this segment, and then we'll go into the plot synopsis unless we have any burning desires to talk about anything else before we get into the movie. Here's what's coming up in the next few years. Because if you're thinking, Mark, people call me Mark, but Mark, what we're here now. Moana 2 just came out, and it's a roaring success. We'll get to it momentarily. It's not that bad of a movie. Surely Maverick has turned the plane around out of the tailspin, and we're going to find, safe flight here. Disney is going to start giving us the magic it once did. We're going to return to the salad days of Moana. Well, folks, here's what's in the pipeline. And I do mean the gravy pipe, because we didn't forget it this time. Skipping Mufasa the Lion King, because I'm not counting photorealism. Now, this is going to be a mixture of Pixar and Disney, because they've now listed everything as Walt Disney. But let's go with it. Elio, which they're starting to show trailers for now, and I'm 90% certain that's a Pixar. Zootopia 2. Hoppers, which is a Pixar. Toy Story 5, which is a Pixar. Ice Age, which is 20th Century Studios. Ice Age 6, by the way.
Why couldn't they let that franchise die? They actually ended it with the cutest little animated short on Twitter of Scrat finally eating the acorn. It was so cute.
Yeah, that is a franchise that came out with already like beyond its expiration date. Like the first one's fine, but
I still watch the first one. I love it.
But when I say it's like past its expiration date, like, oh, it's fine. And then, oh, here's a million more of these. Like that's almost the Land Before Time levels of milking something beyond where it should have been.
My son and I did a review of Buck Wild because I kept wanting to make the Buck Naked joke. That was that and wanting to spend time with my son and create content was the only reason I did that review. Ugh. Anyway, speaking of Frozen 3 coming at you in 2027 in the year of our Lord.
Why?
Because after the disaster that happened with them trying to use original content, and then I'm sorry, does anyone remember at our end of the year review when we talked about how much money Disney lost over the last 2 years?
Yeah,
Bob Iger
I've said that before. That's when they announced Sequel Mania.
Yeah, Bob Iger basically said, we're going to play it safe, and we are only going to work on franchises that we know bring us money. They are scared shitless of gambling on anything.
Out of that entire list, maybe there's hope for Zootopia 2, but like, I'm looking at Moana 2, and I'm thinking, you can't see it. It's John Cena. It's just going to be LOL. John Cena wins all the time. Nothing is beating Moana 2. Whether it's from Pixar or from Walt Disney proper.
Well,
like,
Pixar. Hang on, I imagine Pixar is going to come out with something that's actually quite good during that stretch. I don't know which one it'll be, but even if their batting average isn't what it used to be, with that many releases over the next little bit, something of theirs is going to be really good.
Well, the next two at bats are Elio and Hoppers, so in Toy Story 5. So
what is Hoppers? I've saw the teaser for Elio. I've never heard of Hoppers.
Yeah, it's in the list. I'm not going back to it. But all right, Robert.
Oh, by the way, if you also want to understand how scared Disney is of everything, including their own shadow these days, there's a reason they haven't put the Snow White trailer on YouTube. It's not there.
I was going to say, when I saw the trailer with this, I was like, they released a new Snow White trailer. Why didn't I notice? Why didn't anyone share this in our chat?
Here's what I think they should do. And Robert, after I say my nonsense that I'm about to say, my peak, just Pinot Noir, mock nonsense, sip it, spit it in your neighbor's eye. They should release this as an event. Like, don't do a mass release, a wide release. Take Captain America 4, New World Order. I know that's not the right title, but it makes me laugh every time I think about it. Yeah.
The subtitle for that will not be Brave New World by the time it comes out at this rate.
Yeah. So
They're reshooting it again.
yeah, I know. I've seen the news. So take Captain America 4, Brave New reshoots, right? And take Snow White, which they've now had to reshoot and rescript 2 and 3 different times, and just release them like Screamboat or Wave the Blue Blood and Honey, just as a one-night event, double feature of these Frankensteinian monster films that are costing $1 zillion because they can't get them right, and the original intention was so off base of what their fan base wants that they don't know what to do now. Release Snow White and Captain America as an event together one night and just get this over with. Because at this point, they're never going to make back their money. There's no way Captain America makes $1 billion. There's no way Snow White makes any money. No, dude, even my daughter looked at that and went, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Bonus points if you bring rotten apples to hurl at the screen during Snow White.
I'm not getting a felony.
Some poor schmuck has to clean those up. Throw rotten fruit at Rachel Zegler if you see her, but leave the poor theater people alone.
Again, let's not encourage people to commit felonies. Let's encourage Robert to do a plot synopsis for that sweet, sweet Moana 2.
That's not a felony.
It should be.
Hurling rotten fruit at Rachel Zegler?
Specifically not a felony in the state of California.
I'm glad you looked that up, you psycho. Read the plot synopsis.
It's like shooting Apu in The Simpsons. It's only a small fine now.
Alrighty.
All right, so Moana 2 picks up after Moana 1, as it should. Moana is out running around, exploring islands, but she can't find any other people, and she is desperate for human contact beyond the 80 people that live on her island. And she's looking, and I'll find somebody someday, and she sings a song about how great she is as she comes back to the island, and there's a lot of songs about how great Moana is. It's a running theme.
Moana has officially entered Mary Sue territory in this movie.
Yeah, we'll get there. So while back at her home island, she is talking with her little sister, and she reminisces about Maui, and we were introduced to a few other characters who will become, I'll put air quotes around important. They'll take screen time as they're trying to figure out, what's next. What are we going to do here? And we flash over briefly to Maui and what he's doing, and he's trying to get somewhere through a magic portal, but a bat lady kidnaps him and ties him up, and he is then drenched in snot as very, very ugly dogfish look up and are under him eating the slime that he is drenched in on occasion.
Weren't those mud skippers?
They might have been. I forget exactly what kind of fish they were based on. But back with Moana, she is given the title of, I can't remember how to pronounce it.
Official Wayfinder of the Island.
Yeah, it's Tuavasa, Tuataia, something like that.
Just the two of us.
Yeah.
Reminder that this movie deals with Polynesian and Oceania and stuff like that, and it's being hosted by 3 white people.
I just can't remember the title. I could pronounce it if I saw it.
I'm trying so hard to be better and not make fun of you, but you sissy pansy.
Hey. In fairness, I had to go through so many Slavic names talking about the PFL the other day.
Did you start to
talk about
did you start to think, oh my god, I have Mark's disease? I can't pronounce names anymore?
No, okay, look, I can go from Gadzi Rabanov to Dalzidan Yagshimorodov to Rimpa Kasanganai. I can go through a bunch of them. Mm-hmm. But Pacific Islanders and the Slavic languages are relatively far removed, so I have to switch a little bit in my brain. Okay. Anyway, as she is given this title, she is almost struck by lightning and given a vision of the first big wayfinder who's trying to get to this place in the middle of the ocean where all the currents of the ocean converge, and this is where all the peoples would come together and where the Tower of Babel was, and we perverted the pure Adamic language way back in the day. Sorry, I'm mixing my mythologies. So she's like, oh, that's where I have to go, and conveniently their nerdy librarian in the island finds paintings of explaining what happened that we've just never found until now.
Who would have thought that the library had that deep of a basement on this island?
Yeah. So the god, what's the god's name?
Nalo.
Nalo, thank you. I was putting a T in there because Talos is storm god in other setting. So Nalo has took that island, surrounded it in a storm to separate people, because if people can't get together, then they're weaker and he's stronger? Shrug, question mark, unsure.
I mean,
So
I kind of got it. The implication being that if I keep people separate, they can't all band together and form a unified thought greater than me. They cannot displace me if they are all separate and can't come together. Like, it was more or less what they were going for. Keep going.
I'll yell about that later then.
Sure.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying it's badly done.
That's fine.
So she commissions a much bigger seafaring vessel and grabs a couple of mooks from the island. There's an engineer. There's
why she grab Bill Cosby, I'll never know.
There's a grumpy old man.
And there's a fanfic writer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who we really should have let be eaten by the giant sea snakes, but we'll...
So I'm still stuck on why we had to bring old man Bill Cosby on this journey.
Allegedly, because you're going to need a diversity of food intake.
I understood the in-world reason. I just thought it was a funny choice.
It was choice.
That they animated him, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't get past the fact they made him look like old, definitely older Bill Cosby, the way his face is shaped.
Yeah.
And yet he has some of the funniest lines in the whole freaking movie.
Oh yeah, no, he's a great character.
His crankiness is just adorable.
Look, I don't hate this movie, and I have plenty of positive things to say. His stuff is one of them. Keep going, Robert.
So they take off. They start looking around. They're following a comet in the sky that then blows up partway through their journey, because that's a thing. They encounter the Kakamora from the first one, and there's a giant eldritch clam that pops out of the ocean like Charybdis from the Odyssey.
I thought Charybdis was a whirlpool.
Charybdis is just at the bottom of the whirlpool. The whirlpool is formed by Charybdis opening her mouth, and she sucks in everything. And the other side is Scylla with the
giant wolf heads. Yeah.
Greek mythology. I told you I'm mixing them up here today because it's a good time.
My daughter would love this. I, however, am losing my patience.
So they wind up recruiting one of the Kakamora, because the Kakamora, turns out, are just misunderstood little guys, and they just want to go home. And their home on the island was near the one that Nalo dealt with, and so one of them goes with them. They get swallowed down into this clam after paralyzing it with a neurotoxin. And down there, we find Maui. He finally escapes from his prison. He meets everybody else, doesn't recognize anybody else because he wouldn't know them, but then he sees the chicken who is with them. He goes, "Hey, boat snack." And wait a minute, that means Moana's here.
Ah, crap.
Moana has met our other song, our pseudo-villain song for this one.
Matangi. Is it Matangi or Matangi?
Gi would be more appropriate there, I believe.
Yeah. Credits. I have no idea who this person is. I can't find any information on there, but they found one of the best singers for this song. The song is not memorable, but the vocals are.
Yeah, so she gets the song about how it's important to, when you're trying to find your way, to understand the value of getting lost, and that there's always alternate routes. And then Moana, because she just bypasses the power converter while flying the Millennium Falcon. Sorry, she opens the portal to the shortcut portal that no one else could open somehow. They all head down through this portal. They come out very near their destination, and Maui now tells us the truth about the giant crap storm they've fallen into. You see, Nalo didn't just put a giant F-off storm around this island. He put the F-off storm around the island and then sunk it to the bottom of the sea. Fortunately, we have Maui, and one of Maui's things is he pulls islands from the bottom of the sea. It's kind of his deal, in addition to the shape-shifting and everything. So to break the curse, he needs to pull the island up, and then a human has to touch the island, because humans touching it will break the curse he set on it.
Nothing about it. It's like as soon as they set foot on it,
yeah,
they can reclaim it.
Not exactly as appropriately obscure as True Love's First Kiss, but that's what we're going with. But this is very dangerous, of course, so they come up with a plan. They approach the island. Moana's ocean powers don't work here because of the curse placed by the gods, so the ocean currents are kept outside the globe of invulnerability that protects this thing. We spend some time trying to get through there. Eventually, Maui gets close enough to start pulling up the island. He gets shot with lightning because that's what happens, and his tattoos all go away, and then Moana dives into the water to reach down because he's brought the island up close enough that she can reach it if she swims. She swims down, touches the island, breaks the curse. Around the same time, she gets struck by lightning. Maui dives down to save her. The ocean currents, her friend, the ocean, now able to show up again because the curse has been broken. Gives them a little air bubble on top of the island as it's kind of poking up a little bit into the near the surface. The ancestors all show up. Moana kind of becomes a demigod, allegedly. Maui's powers come back because this is the Rock and he doesn't lose fights. He finishes pulling the different wrestler, Mark. Maui finishes pulling the island. There you go. That's closer. Finishes pulling the island from the seafloor. It's now up. They all get there and they see, hey, this is where everyone used to come together. They blow a conch, and just around the same time, apropos of nothing else, here's representatives from every other major Pacific Islander tribe showing up. And boy, I sure do hope we all speak at least something approximating the same language, because otherwise this is going to get real awkward.
Yeah, I was going to say, one ship I think would have been fitting, but no, it's like 5 separate ships.
Oh, yeah.
We're all within the same distance of each other on different sides of this invisible island.
You know, good writing would have had someone point out, hey, Moana, you weren't that special. They were all here to do the same thing you did. You just got there first. Because you had demigod help, and they didn't, you privileged little... Anyway, now all the peoples of the sea begin reconnecting. Everything's hunky-dory, and yeah, that's where we are, and they're going to try to do a third one of these. I don't know how. They barely had enough story for this one, but that's where we are with everything.
All right, Alexis, you had thoughts. You can go first.
This is a movie that suffered. This is a term I keep hearing used by so many other reviewers, but it's true. This is a movie that suffers from sequelitis. It doesn't need to exist. It exists because Disney said they wanted more money. The story did not need to continue. The characters in the first one had evolved, gone to where they needed to be. There was no real point to continuing this story. And it is just so dull. Robert, you and I went back and forth on this with the music. Lin-Manuel Miranda is not credited as the songwriter. We got, what the hell were their names? Abigail Barlow and Emily Bear replacing. They are the writers who won the Grammy Award for Best Musical Theater Album in 2022 for the unofficial Bridgerton musical.
Just shoot me.
I'm not a Bridgerton fan, so I know nothing about that.
Well, unofficial, first of all. Second of all, just swallow up.
I mean, I never watched a single episode of it, but Melissa used to rave about it.
That tracks.
Yeah.
But everything that was memorable and fun and enjoyable about Moana is missing in this. The cast is good, but they're not standout. You know, I mean, I feel so sorry for what the hell is her name? Auliʻi Cravalho, the voice actress from Moana, because between this playing Ariel in that live version of The Little Mermaid that they did, and now having to do the live action Moana with Dwayne Johnson, I'm like, this poor child. Disney owns her soul at this point.
Pretty much.
She got to be in The Color Purple. She'll be all right.
Oh, she was? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, some of the other characters were a little fun. Like I said, the crankiness of the old farmer guy was kind of funny. But like I said, nothing about this movie stands out. I remember leaving the first Moana, and I was so excited because I had a blast.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. I thought you meant the live-action Little Mermaid movie. I'm thinking of a different actress.
No. I was talking about that on-stage live version they did with Queen Latifah.
Yeah, I had to check myself, so apologies. Different actress.
No, it's okay. They did 2 versions of the live action Little
Oh,
Mermaid.
however,
th-
however,
not like they're just muddying their own waters. They're like, hey, there's a live action Little Mermaid. Which one?
well, she was in the
Yeah.
musical she was in the Mean Girls from earlier this year, so there's that. Moving on.
She's a good actress and she's a great singer. She was literally a cold call cast in the first movie.
Yeah.
And she's been great. But again, I still remember, like I said, I remember leaving the first Moana and I was excited. I had loved it. The music was still in my head and I had so much fun and I love these characters. And this one, I was just like, well, I kind of want to go see the original now. It's like this nothing stayed with me from this at all. Again, the best song in the movie to me is the one that the Bat Lady sings. And I cannot tell you a thing about what she is singing about. I just remember how powerful her vocals were. I don't know who this actress is, but her singing voice was
animated really well in that scene. Like she kind of has Ka vibes from
very much.
There's a thing with this movie that, I mean, we can talk about this a little bit maybe later, but it was originally conceived of as a Disney Plus like series or straight to streaming thing. And as they decided we're going to move it to a theatrical release, they had to. The quality of the animation in this is inconsistent. Some of it looks gorgeous because they knew this is the stuff we have to put some extra time and extra effort into. Some of it looks very cheap, and there's not a whole lot of in between.
Yeah, Nalo is not a memorable villain, especially compared to the presence of Te Ka from the original, especially the twist that you find out Te Ka and Te Fiti are the same.
I mean,
God
wasn't even as interesting as the big shiny crab monster, like Tamatoa.
Not to mention, Tamatoa has one of my favorite villain songs in recent
Shiny
years. I love Shiny. Like I said, just this is a movie that doesn't leave any kind of an impact at all. I think the only joke I kind of laughed at was the Moana bees, which I found out later are voiced by Dwayne Johnson's daughters.
That tracks.
All right, let me cut in here. Here's the good, the bad, the ugly for me. I didn't hate this movie. I was bored for about the first half of it, and I know why I was bored for the first half of it. It suffers from try-hard syndrome. Those first two songs sound like every Disney song ever from the start of every Disney movie since the dawn of time. It's a bit of an exaggeration, but I was like, this is too familiar. This is too safe. There's no distinctive style about it. One of the things I liked about Moana, I like the fact that they, one of the things I've always actually liked about the last couple of years of the second Disney Renaissance was they kept going into different, and Disney animation, Alexis can talk about this, has always gone into different cultures. Snow White was German. I think Cinderella's French.
They're trying to fill up Epcot with as many meetable characters as possible.
Well, I mean, the Princess and the Frog, that's
Louisiana,
New Orleans.
Yeah.
Even Frozen, Scandinavia.
Yeah, Norway. So I like the fact that we were going into a different area here and we're dealing with the Polynesian culture. And I like the fact that they've really made this a part of the marketing and a part of, like the behind the scenes stuff is like we hired regional actors and, we got people, we got people who really knew the culture to contribute to the story and the songs and everything. I liked all that stuff. I think it's pretty cool. None of that's present in the first part of the movie. None of it. It was as if, when they announced Sequel Mania and they looked over at like what's in the pipeline that we can throw into the theaters and start making back some of this money that we've lost on every single thing we've done since the year of the flood. And they went, well, we have this Moana 2 movie. Like, well, that better make $1 billion. And they went, okay, well, our marching orders are clear. Make it look like and sound like everything else. Let's completely lose the style and the cultural elements of this fucking thing and make it look like everything else and sound like everything else we've ever done. So I was bored for the first half of it.
Yeah,
I could care less about this movie up until I'm going to let you say what you're going to say, but up until after the stuff with when they meet. Was it Nala?
Nola.
Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah,
Or is
I
it
don't-
Nalo? Did I just
Nalo.
Nalo? It's like no, yeah. Sorry,
Hang on,
Nola is New
hang on,
Orleans.
Mark's referencing the Bat Lady, not the god, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's a coincidence or a mistake that the closing song for this is the same closing song from the original.
We know
And it's
the
probably
way.
the most memorable piece of music they have.
The stuff with Nalo looks interesting. Again, I like the way she was animated.
That's not Nalo.
Sorry. What the hell is this character's name?
Just call her the
Um,
Bat Lady. We'll go.
Yeah.
Oh, Matangi. That's we said it before.
Matangi or Bat Lady? We don't. Whichever.
Wonderful. So
The
beyond
best
Batman,
the best Batwoman put to screen ever.
so Matangi, I'm
Low bar to clear, I know.
Yeah.
I like the way they animated Matangi. I said her song was at least interesting, and certainly the whole concept behind her song of "Think Outside the Box" was an interesting one. Different take, I thought, especially for a Disney movie. So I liked, like I said, she had kind of like a snake-like vibe to her. Like I said, I brought up Ka from the Jungle Book, so I liked all of that. It's animated like shit though. Like everything's in the fucking dark. There's no contrast of color. They don't use the dark very well. It looks very flat. But what they do specifically with her look pretty cool. The other actress I got to call out, Rose Matafeo, who plays Lodo, the brainy but quirky craftswoman member of her wayfinding crew. I couldn't understand a fucking word she said. And my kids really like bagged on me for it. They were just like, we understood her just fine. I don't know what your problem is. So maybe it's just me.
She did
But-
speak really fast, which is supposed to be part of her quirkiness.
It's a little bit just for the record, Mark. It's a little bit just you, but that's not entirely. I could keep up with her, but my brain also works differently.
I
than a lot of
missed
people's.
almost everything she said for the first half of this movie. It did not feel there wasn't in the recording of her line delivery in her songs. There wasn't loud enough, and her cadence was and her delivery was so fast that I was missing half of it. Fine, everyone else picked it up. I'm old. I don't really care. I can only tell you about my experience. My experience was I couldn't understand a fucking word this woman said. Once we got going, and they were, I think later on in the movie she starts to slow down a bit, and actually, talk like a human being. I got it, and it was fine. And that element of it I actually did like. I like the fact that because Moana is doing I was go alone, you don't understand. I can't put people in danger, and somebody shakes her. He goes, "No, you can't, stupid. You absolutely can take people. You should take people. What's wrong with you?" And she puts a crew together, and they handle that in the first 5 minutes of the movie. And I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, this isn't going to be an ongoing thing. Yeah, so she brings like Robert and I comment on male characters and the way they're represented all the time. I actually think, like, the marketing did this character no justice because the first thing you see him do is faint when he sees the rock. But they also cut two different things together, so it was like, all right. But he's not as foppish or as sissy pansy as he's made out to be in the marketing. He's a pretty decent character. He didn't bother me like I thought he was going to because I was ready to hate him. But he's actually a fairly manly enough character. Was a little mini arc of his own. He finds his courage. He's able to be more than just the town librarian. It's good shit. I love the inclusion of the old man. I think the old man's hilarious. It was an odd choice. It was a quirky choice, but I like his little arc that he goes on as well. The second half of the movie is where after when they make the run towards the cursed part of the water, that's when the movie really got me involved. That's the part of the movie that I like. It's the part of the movie that's distinctive. But it takes such a long time getting there. Overall, when my kids asked like, "What'd you think of it?" I was like, It definitely felt like a movie they had to jury rig into a theatrical exhibition from its intended straight to streaming distribution. This doesn't feel like a movie that was meant to be seen on the big screen. This feels like a movie that they had to puff up and blow up so that it was big enough to warrant a theatrical exhibition. I think most people who are going to see it are going to like it just fine. You know, Moana's a likable character. Most of the characters in this are likable. The plot in and of itself is fine. And, you know, and somebody mentioned this before, like, they like the fact that they kind of hint at something sexual between Maui and Moana, but they don't necessarily pay it off. It's just sort of hinted at. You're like, you know, and then they back away from it because, like, we don't really want to commit to this, though, which I'm okay with. I think acknowledging that there's something there, but not necessarily. Maybe you'll get more of that in the next movie. Who knows? But I think kind of just playing with the idea and then leaving it alone and allowing there to be some natural sexual tension between the two characters for this children's animated feature is just fine the way it is. I gotta say this about the Rock. As much as I love You're Welcome, that man cannot sing worth a shit. And there wasn't anything memorable this time around that The Rock says or does. There's something about, I think she says, like, I'm not a princess, and he cracks something wise.
A lot of people think you are.
Oh no! In the first movie, he says, if you wear a dress and you have an animal sidekick, you're a princess.
Yeah, in this one, you know, he says something to the effect like, thanks, princess. She goes, I'm not a princess, and he says, well, a lot of people think you are, and then his tattoo breaks the fourth wall.
Yeah, and that I laughed at. And the fact that you had to remind me of what the joke was that I laughed at, and that's the only thing I laughed at, says a lot about this movie. Robert?
Yeah, the variance in CGI quality throughout this is pretty noticeable. There's some stuff that they beefed up because it had to look good. The final run on the island is actually very well animated. But a lot of the earlier stuff is just not. It's not ugly, but there's a difference in quality that is very, very apparent. The music, you can tell this was supposed to be a streaming series because there's a density of songs in the first half that indicates, oh, this was the song for the episode.
Right.
And then here's the next episode, and this was the song for the next episode. And then, so there's a bunch in the first half, and then there's like one in the back half. Like, you get the Rock's, you know, montage song for gassing up Moana.
Can I get a Chi-Hu? Which,
oh my god, that was the only song I actually liked in this.
See, I didn't like it. I could barely understand half of what he was saying.
I think I liked the lyrical content of it more than anything else. Keep going, Robert.
Well, it's also pretty much the only... It's what passes for Moana's low point, even though none of what happens is actually her fault. And Alexis isn't wrong when she says, like, she borders on Mary Sue territory and how her character is treated for a lot of this film. It's kind of a problem.
That's what made Moana such a great character in the first one. She was good at being the future chief, but she didn't know the first thing about sailing. I love that the first time she gets in a canoe, she nearly drowns. I love the scene when she and Maui find the Kakamora, and he's telling her what to do and everything, and she's just staring at him like, I have no idea what you're saying. Those are good scenes. Again, it's very good character development.
And at this point, you know, she's clearly done enough voyaging to be very proficient in that area, but so fine, but you got to give her something else. There has to be something else that she is struggling to overcome other than the physical portion of the journey. Otherwise, you don't have anything.
Well, that's the whole bit with Manatangai, or whatever the hell her name is, Jacob Fatu. She she's like, I don't know how to do this, and I'm going at this like an animal, just straightforward. And she's like, right, think out of the box. And then they pay that off when she swims to the island, having figured out all I have to do is touch it. It doesn't matter if the island is up, down, or sideways.
For the record, am I the only one? Despite what I said about Matangi's song probably having the best vocals, the structure with her character really threw me off. She starts off with clearly being evil, taunting and, imprisoning Maui. But then when Moana finds her, she's like, I want to help you in your journey because I don't like serving Nalo, and I'm actually here to help. And I'm sitting there going, I am waiting for the double cross.
Yeah, I meant to mention that too.
Yeah,
I thought It's like the stuff she does is fine, but the overall inclusion of her character made to me no structural sense.
Mm-hmm.
Again, very clearly, we'll introduce this character as something darker, and then over the course of 7 episodes, we can tease out more of what's actually going on here, and suddenly we don't have that much time. So what do?
Yeah, keep going, Robert.
And there's a lot of structural problems here. Yeah, Moana. There needed to be more there needed to be more to her arc of I am just following paths already established to know this is, you need to be able to think outside the box, and it's not set up well, and consequently the payoff is middling at best. Yeah, there again, some of the stuff is well animated. The music is forgettable. I'm kind of with you, Mark. I don't dislike this movie, but it's kind of a giant nothing burger when it's all said and done.
Yeah.
Let
me to that point. I'm gonna let you keep going, but I have to address that. I had at least 2 different moms who are big fans of Disney and not us that thought that enjoyed it. The kids enjoyed it. It's one of those that's what I'm saying. Like, I think if you're an average person with kids who don't go to the movies much, this is going to tick all the boxes. It's going to be very crowd pleasing. The problem is you tune into this podcast to hear 3 people give it a level of scrutiny most people are not going to give this movie. So it's not going to survive this level of scrutiny. But for the rest of you ham and eggers who aren't going to think about it this hard, you'll have a good time at the theater. Keep going.
Well, it's not unenjoyable, but this is, I've said this about a few other movies we've reviewed this year. This is cheap, disposable content. That's really all it is. And that's a shame because the first one is definitively not that.
Oh, yeah. As we said at the top of the podcast, the first one's stellar. Top tier Disney.
I think the last thing I have to say is I have to shame Disney for something here.
This is the best part of the podcast coming up right here, people. Dig in.
All right. So the writers of this thing are getting screwed. There's no 2 ways about it. Because this was originally commissioned as a Disney Plus venture. So that's all the writers were paid to write this thing. Now it's being released theatrically, and normally if you write a movie that gets a big theatrical release and it does really well, there are bonus structures. You have there's like a ladder for a lot of places. Like, this will vary a little bit contract to contract, but in general, if the movie hits a certain threshold, you get a bonus. If it hits another threshold, you get another bonus, et cetera, et cetera. And this thing, we're going to get to it in a minute with the money. This thing is doing well. And the writers of this are seeing none of what should be their pay increases because they were contracted to write a streaming show. And it's scummy as hell.
You gotta love that all that fighting and that writer's strike, and it really didn't take them long to find a loophole.
Never does.
Never does. Yeah, so that is just, again, I find that to be just really despicable if it's done. And now if that holds up in court, because there's probably going to be a lawsuit about this, one would assume. If that holds up, this might happen more and more often, and that... Oh boy!
You're gonna contract people to write something for a streaming service, and they go, "Oh, it's theatrical exhibition," like the anti-David Zaslav thing.
Yeah. Can we just swap Iger? Hang on. You know what I really want now? This will never happen.
Sure.
I want a Freaky Friday where for 1 week Zaslav and Iger switch places.
The man will gut every ounce of animation from Disney Plus.
Get 1 week. I just want to see what would happen. That's all I want.
We're cutting Pixar entirely. What the fuck?
So Pixar's been sold to a Saudi oil conglomerate.
Oh, he's going to end The Simpsons. He's going to cancel Simpsons.
Oh, perfect.
That would get him tarred and feathered. And again, I'd be okay with
Bob's
that.
Burgers, The Simpsons, all of it. It's got to go. We get this shit out of here.
What do you mean broadcast television? I don't know what that is.
All right, if there's nothing
I
else.
listen to FDR on the radio.
Zootopia 2, I don't care if it's finished. Put that thing on the shelf.
To be fair, I would cheer him if he saved me from that.
You know, Zootopia, the original Zootopia, we had favorable things to say about as well.
Zootopia was a good movie.
Yeah,
I-
Robert and I were very positive on Zootopia. I think both of us, what the fear is, they're going to queer the soup and just fuck up the second one.
Can I also? I rewatched Zootopia.
Doesn't hold up.
My opinion has changed.
Yeah,
A lot of the positives I do think are still there, but there's a lot about that
yeah.
doesn't hold up.
I really love the first Zootopia, but yeah, I am terrified that they're going to give it a bad case of sequelitis.
Yep. All right. Speaking of sequelitis, here comes the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
I'm gonna end up, I think, reading it somewhere, but I think this was like the most successful Thanksgiving in like years.
Probably.
Thanksgiving weekend corridor movies.
Works for me.
Yeah. All right. On a budget of streaming,
I think it's like 150 mil.
it's 150 million. This thing has made 389.2 million dollars. Did that just scare the fuck out of you?
Me?
Who?
Yeah, you, Alexis.
I didn't anticipate. I full screened this, so I didn't see the clip getting highlighted.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just
He's
like,
like, you go, what? Heavens to Betsy.
I didn't know you had clicked it.
I very rarely get to use it. So the funny thing about that is because Dorian recorded that so high, every time I play it, when you look at the audio for this, it's like everything is at the bottom, and then you just see that one spike in sound.
Yep.
So much different.
Admittedly, you don't know what's coming. It is a little surprising.
The other thing I'll tell you, I very rarely get to play that because everything this year has made so little money.
Yeah. Already profitable after the opening weekend. Big old thumbs up.
That's a
As
first
of
for
December
Disney.
2nd, 2024, Moana 2 has grossed $225 million in the U.S. and Canada. Excuse me, and 164 in other territories for a worldwide of 389, as I said before. In the U.S. and Canada, Moana 2 is originally projected to gross.
Isn't that what Venom's celebrating crossing is the $300 million mark?
It's in the fourth
Freaking
now.
Chinese had to go, give that movie more money.
Yeah, but they get a lot less from the Chinese take because of how the deals are with theaters there. So it's not actually as profitable as it might appear.
All right. It was projected to gross 105 to 115 over the 5-day Thanksgiving weekend, after making 57.5 million on its first day, including 13.8 million from Tuesday night previews, both the highest ever for a Walt Disney animation film and a Thanksgiving week release. 5-day estimates were raised to almost $200 million. It then made a record 28 million on Thanksgiving, nearly doubling 2019's Frozen 2, previous high of 14.9. It went on to debut to 135.5 million, breaking Frozen 2's 130.3 million record for the best opening weekend for a Walt Disney animation film and the Thanksgiving weekend release, as well as nearly matching the entire domestic run of the first film at 248.7 million. Not too shabby. All right, it was the number one movie of the weekend. It knocked Wicked out of its spot, which was interesting. Well, Wicked came out the Friday before, and then this came out Wednesday. So Wicked didn't have like a full week, but still.
Wicked's going to get another bump. They've already, you pointed out, they've already confirmed that they're going to re-release it as a sing-along version. So
yeah,
they said this Christmas?
All right, Alexis. Yeah, from what I've read, starting Christmas Day, they're going to be releasing sing-along versions of Wicked. Last week, when I was talking to Robert about Wicked and about how well it's going to do, possibly getting to the $1 billion mark, and I told him, I said it's going to have a second set of legs once the sing-along start. And back me up on this, Alexis. And I'm telling you right now, if you're ever like trying to get in my good graces, now's the time. just to kind of set you up there. But correct me if I'm wrong. Women be singing.
Oh God, yeah. Not just women. Not just women. No, this thing will have a massive pull. Okay, I'd like to remind you guys, and I know. Okay, did you guys go see this at AMC theaters? Because they released it with they released this movie with a special. Now, no texting, no talking, no singing, with clips of Wicked.
I only go to AMC's.
Okay, I don't know what the theater situation looks like.
No,
in
I
your
understand
towns.
that. I'm telling you, I have an
Yeah.
I am an AMC Stubs member. Thank you very much.
Oh,
Big
of
spender.
course.
Yes.
Yeah, big
Bask
spender.
in my stubbiness.
I
No,
don't know that there's an AMC theater in the state of Utah.
Awesome.
but no, I
hit Cinemark, or there's a
Regal.
No, I'm trying to remember the one at Vineyard, because that's the IMAX one. That's my closest IMAX theater.
Just talk over Alexis when you
okay.
figure it
No,
I'm
Wicked
still coming in.
is not only an insanely popular musical, it's also a big hit with karaoke. So I mean, theaters were posting signs, not just this whole no talking, no texting, no singing promo that they did.
Mhm.
They were posting signs saying, "Please don't sing," because they knew that the minute Ariana Grande started singing "Popular, you're gonna be popular." I know my singing is horrible. It's like everyone in the theater was gonna start singing along, and they're like,
What
"Okay,
did I
we
say
have
to
to
you,
avoid
Robert,
this."
Last week I was just like, "Stop singing, you whores!" Like, there's gonna be a sign posted at theaters. There was legit a sign posted at the AMC near me that says, "Please, for the love of God, wait till the 25th." But this is not a sing-along theater.
No, Wicked is going to get a massive bump on Christmas. May God give Nosferatu all the strength it's going to need, which is also getting really good early review.
Saying not Nosferatu's getting good early buzz.
I am looking forward to that being my favorite movie of this miserable year.
I cannot wait to see it. But yeah, I am calling it now. We are going to see a really big struggle for the box office after I can't remember. Like, I got to look up the calendar. What is Christmas on this year?
It's a Wednesday. I think.
Thursday.
Okay, then yeah, the weekend of the 27th through the 29th, we are going to.
Christmas Eve is Tuesday and Christmas Day is Wednesday.
Okay, we're going to see a fight 27th through 29th between Nosferatu and Wicked, the sing-along version.
All right, so Moana was the #1 movie of the weekend. Knocked Wicked from 1 to 2, Gladiator 2 to 3, Red 1 3 to 4. The best Christmas pageant ever 6 to 5. Bonhoeffer, Pastor, Spy, Assassin. Those are all words. Fell from 4 to 6. Venom, The Last Dance. Fell from 5 to 7. Heretic, 7 to 8. The Wild Robot 8 to 9. In 10 weeks out, by the way. And rounding out number 10 is A Real Pain. Debuting this week is Oscar contender Queer. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about that next year, starring Daniel Craig.
Someone will talk about it.
I intend to see it at some point if it's going to be nominated for a Best Picture. The Seed of the Sacred Fig, Heavier Trip, debuted at 23, and that was the weekend that was worldwide. Wicked, #1. All right. Really no movement except that Venom, The Last Dance is now beaten Beetlejuice. Let me say that again. Venom, The Last Dance has beaten Beetlejuice to the tune of 17 million.
And no one cares. Venom's still probably losing money. Hey, Moana 2 is above Wicked worldwide. That's
That
kind of
hurts.
funny to me.
Yeah,
It's funny, but it hurts.
I thought Wicked would be much better off than where it is now. Yeah, Moana 2 actually debuting at number 11. That's really high. Like, in one weekend, it beat Twisters, Alien Romulus, It Ends With Us, The Wild Robot. Gladiator 2 currently sitting at number 17 at 320 million.
Is it bad that I legit forgot half these movies came out this year?
No.
Hey, here are the movies currently doing worse than Joker, Folie à Deux. Ghostbusters, Alexis. If, The Fall Guy, Bob Marley, Furiosa, The Beekeeper, goddammit. Red 1 with a paltry 148 million. Who cares? It's an Amazon movie.
Boy, the Rock had that catastrophic bomb, and it was saved by Moana being a big hit.
Just looking to see. Abigail's is 42 million. Heretics at 36 million. The Black
Oh God,
Riders is
Abigail's doing
35.
worse than Tarot. Oh,
That's
That-
again painful.
very painful.
So I think we're out of movies anyone cares about.
Dude,
Oh, look,
Abigail had the more.
Hey, look, The Crow made $23 million. It's doing. You know what's doing better than The Crow? Anora.
You know, the more I've thought about it, the more that line read from Abigail is one of my favorite of the year. Sammy, those are fucking onions.
God bless you, Dan Stevens. You rock.
That's such a great line reading.
All right. This weekend is nothing. I'm
Nothing new, hence us going to see. I'm just doing Wicked, and yeah.
Robert, you want to give your 50 words or less disclaimer about how Wicked's going to go that you did on Gladiator, just for the record?
Just for the record, yeah, I don't like musicals in general. General rule. There are some that there are some that overcome that particular thing, but that is not my preferred genre. Just straight up, not hating on it, just don't care for it. And I really, really, really dislike the effect that Wicked has had of, hey, let's revisit all classic villains, and what if we made them sympathetic, misunderstood heroes? Maleficent, totally done wrong. Cruella, she'll be the hero. And just this vomitous trend that we've all gone down. Mark brought up that we were probably going to get there anyway, and fair enough. Whatever was the big catalyst for that, I was going to feel the same way about as I do about Wicked. So
you do realize that Maleficent was basically made because Disney said, fuck, we should have bought the rights to that play when we had the chance.
Yes. I'm very aware, and I still hate that they took one of the great pure cinematic villains in their canon and just shot it in the head.
So join us a week from tonight, where 87 people come on here review Wicked, and Robert kills himself live on the podcast. It's the moment you've all been waiting for since 2014.
You know, I actually messaged Mick and Shay and asked if they were going to be doing makeup or costume or anything, because I was like, I didn't want to be a case of, oh, I'll wear pink and green and everything, and then I come on next to those and I'm like, well, I look like a freaking idiot.
The chance of Mark's statement being true, well, let's just say it's not zero.
Welcome to.
I'm not saying it's high.
Welcome to.
Like your chances of being attacked. Your chances of being attacked by the local corgi, the chances are never zero.
You hear that,
They
Eddie?
might be high, but they're never zero.
All right. Coming up around the turnpike, we've also got Kraven the Hunter.
No one cares.
Lord of the Rings.
Golly, that looks awful.
Yeah, at this point, that's just throw that on the sacrificial fire.
Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim. We've also got Sonic the Hedgehog and Mufasa.
Okay, no. Sonic. That's we all know that's the big one.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
I'm not even joking. Like, that's going to be that's probably going to be a smash success for everyone involved. That franchise has been, we've reviewed the other two, and we've been very positive on both of them. They've been well made.
Yeah, they're good movies.
I think the only negative thing you really had about the second one was the side plot with the sister.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
Where we all were just like, why we did this slapstick comedy in the middle of a Sonic movie, no one will ever know. But I actually, and I, as I do with all things Mark and Robert, I defended it. But
you did very poorly, but you put forth the effort.
Oh, everything you think I do was poor. You're a terrible critic.
That is
I would say you also had Zach and me reviewing the Knuckles miniseries, which we gave favorable reviews to which I
have a question about that, because I did listen to it, and I don't think I ever gave you any feedback on it. I think I listened to it. It didn't annoy the piss out of me. You did good. However, how did we land in that review of Knuckles is fucking Jewish or some shit? What happened there?
There's a scene. Okay, so you know that Knuckles teams.
Or less, by the way.
Okay, Knuckles teams up with the assistant deputy Wade from the first two movies.
Okay.
Wade is Jewish, and they go to see Wade's family, and it's on the Sabbath, and you have the scene of Knuckles sitting with them for the Sabbath dinner. Although, okay, it kills me that I missed this joke, because when we reviewed it, when we reviewed Knuckles, there's a fight scene where these assassins break in to get him, and Wade's mother says, "Knuckles, keep the candles lit." And we have a fight scene to Hava Nagia. To which Zach and I said, we need more fight scenes to Hava Nagia. And then Boys Season 4 had a fight scene to Hava Nagia. And I hate that I forgot to bring that up in the Boys review. I was like, damn it, I got my wish.
You told a really fun story about being Jewish on that podcast. And I was only like half listening. And I was like, hey, how did we land here? So glad you cleared that up.
Yeah, I just loved hearing Zach talk about because there's a great moment where Knuckles is like, trying to gefilte fish is like, it has the consistency of a sponge.
When Zach doesn't have a trash can full of puns that he's rolling down the side of a hill, he's actually quite entertaining to listen to.
You better be nice to him. He and I are going to be reviewing the new Wallace and Gromit movie. When
Did
it
I
comes
just
out.
say anything bad about him? I said when he's not doing nothing but puns, he's actually very entertaining and insightful to listen to. He did good on the Knuckles review.
He did.
Can I-
And I'm looking forward to. He is a huge Aardman fan, so I'm really
Can
looking
I just
forward to
tell
hearing
you
more
my
about Wallace
one
and
of my
Gromit.
favorite things about the Wallace and Gromit franchise?
All ears.
That the super serious discussing film Twitter account, this is a super serious film, talks about movies, unabashedly just 7 stars, everything related to Wallace and Gromit. Unabashed fanboys of that property.
It's fantastic.
It's awesome.
So we have a crowded December. How much of that's going to affect Moana? I mean, everything I just read, with the exception of Sonic, isn't really going to affect Moana. I mean, I think its 2 biggest competitors right now are Wicked and eventually Sonic. Here's the thing with Mufasa. I don't know how many people are going to see that movie. You know,
That trailer, man.
Am I the only one that's actually kind of disgusted that they changed it now that Mufasa was an orphan who basically usurped?
Let me get my daughter
Star?
on here. You guys can fucking nerd out about Lion King lore, because that's
Hang
all
on.
I've had to hear about for the past month or so.
So 1, no, you're not the only one disgusted by that. 2, it looks bad. Just the quality of the CGI is a giant step down.
Mm-hmm.
And 3, I apologize for taking the bait. I understand this, everybody. I am taking the bait and running with the hook.
Okay, I think I know what you're about to say, but just say it.
Why are the evil lions white?
Fuck,
Just
I knew
why?
it!
I
knew you were gonna go full Kimba on this.
I just have to ask, like, is it a mistake that suddenly we are mocking the
Because if it ain't
property
white,
that we clearly ripped off the Lion King from in the first place?
because if it ain't white, it ain't
Fucking
right,
knew
baby.
it. I fucking knew you were gonna say that.
All right, real quick.
Look, there's like 5 people that understand the reference that's being made there, but I had to
So
do
we
it.
brought it up at the top of the show, and I said we're going to kick this into the money, and I almost went out of the money into the next thing without bringing it up. Yeah, so we saw the Snow White trailer. Now, people have to understand something. When they conceptualized Snow White, this Snow White movie, Rachel Zegler was very much out front and public about this is going to be essentially Lord of the Rings for chicks. This is Snow White leading a charge.
Snow White will give us the socialist utopia is the gist of this.
Yeah,
We tried this with that horrible Kristen Stewart adaptation.
Well, I was actually thinking about
At least
the
that,
Alice-
I'll at least give that one 2 things in its favor.
Mhm.
Charlize Theron.
Forgot. Okay, 3.
But she's a good villain.
She's a tremendous villain, but for some reason we've now made 3 of these Snow White adaptations in a row where the person playing Snow White is clearly not as attractive as the person playing the evil queen.
I wasn't gonna even bring that up. Trying to convince me that Gal Gadot isn't the fairest in the land next to Rachel Zegler is you. What Monica Bellucci is also not a pretty woman? What are we doing here in Hollywood?
I got eyes, man, and I'm not that far induced into propaganda. But point being about the Snow White and the Huntsman, it actually leans into the grittier aesthetic in a way that I appreciate. If you're gonna do a play on this, play with it, and doing it a little bit more that direction I thought was a decent way. And Chris Hemsworth is a very charming lead.
Can we just shoot this right in the heart and say stop shaming women for liking romance? Because that's what this movie is.
Yeah.
And I'm getting tired of it. Let me speak for the women here.
I'm not a rom-com fan, so please go ahead.
Look, the mistake that Hollywood's made for the past decade has been basically if we feed the women men shit, but we put women in the men's role, they'll come like droves. And it's like, that isn't... Robert and I say this all the time. Men and women are different. We like different stuff. Sometimes we like the same stuff, but it's because women like the men stuff and men like the women stuff. Not that they want to see the reverse. They don't want to see men in the women stuff they like, and they don't want to see women in the men stuff they like. And that's a very broad generalization. But The reason why everyone liked Wonder Woman was because Wonder Woman was a badass character that it was well represented from the comics. The reason why we liked Scarlett Johansson as the Black Widow was because, again, she was well represented from the comics, and what she did alongside the men looked cool. Nobody was offended by any of this. When you start doing things like, what's her face? I can't remember the actress's name. Banks. Elizabeth Banks is like Charlie's Angels. Yeah. And you're like, what if we have women doing the stuff that men, that the men typically like, but we have women doing it? And it's like, no. Not only do women not like that, but men don't like it either. So now you got nobody. The thing with Snow White is they're like, okay, well, women like fantasy stuff. Women like Lord of the Rings. Well, what if we gave them a woman's version of Lord of the Rings, and we'll take Snow White and we'll make her Aragorn? Okay, again, nobody likes this. The men don't like it because that's not what they like, and the women don't like it because they like what the men like.
We already had a kick-ass version of Snow White as a leader, and it was actually in the Once Upon a Time series. They did Snow White really well in that. I stand by it. Now, I will also admit that I dropped out of that series after they decided to bring in Elsa and Cruella, because I have my
You're also
limits.
talking about it like a prime time soapy drama. It's a different audience. It's a different medium. It's a different distribution.
And it's Disney. It's an ABC thing. So technically,
By distribution, I mean it's on TV, not in theaters.
I know, but it's Disney property, so it's still technically their Snow White.
Okay. The point is, the problem with when Rachel Zegler's out there like, this isn't going to be the old romantic, Snow White falls in love with the prince and he solves all of her problems.
Which is publicly saying we could probably cut out this other actor who was in the movie. Just leave him on the cutting room floor.
How about you stop pissing on everyone's shoes that actually like Snow White? If there's one thing I've noticed with women is most women they absolutely like the idea for whatever the reasons are, and I'm not going to get into it now. It'll take me another hour to start breaking all this shit down. But they actually like the idea of a man comes into their world, gives him a kiss, and takes him away, and and they live romantically ever after. Well, that's not a bad thing. It's a fantasy.
It's a fairy tale.
It's women. It's women's romance fantasy. It's the same thing as boys' power fantasy. And people like Rachel Zegler, who worked on the stupid Snow White movie, and have done in the zillion other projects out there that have all failed and blown up on the launch pad, keep trying to shame women for being women. And it sucks and it's stupid and it's the reason why you're losing money. This fucking Snow White movie, aside from the fact that it looks terrible.
Those
again,
dwarves. They look.
so Roger Rabbit looked more real.
I try not to insult the CGI in trailers because we've had a lot of times where the CGI in the trailer look terrible.
Actually had that thought, like, maybe
and it's like
better.
Maybe it's not totally finished.
Right.
I mean, remember when Infinity War, the first trailer dropped, and everyone thought Thanos looked like shit?
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't like making fun of it, but I saw and I'm not even thinking about the dwarves. I'm thinking about the animals, the cute little enchanted animals. I'm like, oh my God.
There's a couple of scenes where
the animals in FAO Schwartz look more realistic than this.
There's a couple of scenes where she's supposed to be interacting with them physically. It just looks bad. Like it's not lined up. There's no weight to anything that's going on there. The animals are bad. It's very obvious that all those photos that leaked early of, they're not really going to be dwarves. There's going to be they're going to be live actors, and it's going to be a bunch of different nature spirits. That was the plan. That was absolutely the plan. Because if it was always supposed to be the dwarves, they would not look this bad. Right. Not at this point.
No, they absolutely changed gears when, the critical drinker wing of the internet saw those photos and went fucking crazy.
Hang on. If it had only been the niche that lost their minds over that, they probably wouldn't have. The fact that those got publicized and the normies went, what the
Okay. I have no qualms if they had just said, this is a new Snow White. It's not a remake of the classic. They got rid of the short hair, the blue and yellow dress and everything. No tiebacks to it. And it's like she does meet something different than dwarves. She meets forest spirits, and they do. It's like if you just completely, machete those ties, I think they could have had something.
Yeah.
But they were like, nope, we want it to be a remake. And it's like, you are holding on too much. And it's like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. You cannot hold on to the original while trying to change this much. You're pissing off the loyalists and the ones who don't like or who don't want to sit through the original. You're not going to make anyone happy.
I want to say this. Jason Teasley in our group chat likes to do things like, well, if we're gonna do this, let's cast Ben Stiller as Black Panther. Ben Stiller is white. And and it's like, Jason, stop.
Well,
hang on, I'm going somewhere with this.
no, I'm taking issue with you saying Ben Stiller's white, but
It's the weirdest thing you've ever said in the entire time I've known.
Ben Stiller's practically clear.
Isn't he Jewish?
Yes. Very Jewish.
Hang on.
Thinking for yourself here.
I'm making a point. Jewish is a separate ethnicity.
Alan Tudyk as Black Panther. Are you happy now, asshole?
I don't know. Look, the joke stands. The fact that you're like, but he's really white. Like, well.
Anywho.
I want to watch a movie with Alan Tudyk as Black Panther.
Oh my God!
Yeah, would absolutely. That would do better than Black Panther 2.
Anyway, so you want to make a black?
You could get Seamus as his silent enforcer. He could do what Kamaru Usman did.
I fucking hate you both.
Then we succeeded at our jobs for the night.
Anyway, you can make a black Little Mermaid. I don't really care. Make a fucking Chinese Little Mermaid. I don't really give a shit. There's a lot of characters you can play around with the ethnicity. You can race swap. You can gender swap. You know, you can sex swap as far as, you know, gay or straight or whatever. I don't really care. I've long ago given up. You know, if you want to do alternate versions of characters, that's fine. Some of them, though, because of the nature of the character, the fucking name, for example, you really can't. It's hard to do anything but African American Black Panther, for example. By the same token, Snow White don't work when you look Mediterranean, you know, or Hispanic. And God bless her, Rachel Zegler's a pretty gal. I mean, I certainly wouldn't kick her out of the bed for eating crackers. But, you know, she's...
Jeez, you and I had the same reaction to that statement, Alexis.
We both were like, yeah.
All right, I'd sleep with her. I don't know about these two asexual twins, but Rachel Zegler is a tanned woman. I mean, Jesus Christ, she looks very ethnic. It's fine. Very obviously.
They've turned whatever that kingdom is into downtown LA because you've got Rachel Zegler, who I think is actually Puerto Rican.
You
by
can't
descent.
call her fucking Snow White, is my point.
You've got Gal Gadot, who's Israeli, and the Huntsman is a black guy.
My point is,
I can't wait for her to talk to the Chinese guy that's sweeping up the
name is
like,
Snow
this is
White.
what we're doing.
The character's name is Snow White, not because she does cocaine, but because...
No, but I'd love to live in the universe where that exists.
I would watch that movie, and then she can be fucking Omar from The Wire for all I care. But
marking on the bingo cards.
The nickname is Snow White because she brings the cocaine.
You know, if it's Snow White, it's Al Pacino from Scarface, sure. But but you can't be like her skin was as white as porcelain. And she looks like, you know, fucking Rachel Zegler. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, why are we doing this? And like no thought was given to this. It's like, Rachel Zegler's an it girl. She's pretty. We'll throw her in this, and we'll make this a modern feminist tale, and all the women will come out and watch this. Meanwhile, they're all like, Wicked. No, Wicked is what we like. I don't know what you think this is, but Wicked is what we like. Anyway, Snow White and Captain America 4. Put them out together one night and then run away from this as fast as possible.
Seriously, Captain America, Captain America, the Banana Republic. Okay, that's what we're going to call this thing from now on. Because I know what a Banana Republic is. And it's not a clothing store, but that's how much they've spent on this thing. They could have, in fact, established peace in Guatemala. They could have subsidized a small South American country for what they've spent on this movie with Red Hulk.
I threw a lot out. It looks like shit, by the way. I threw a lot out there about Snow White and women audiences, and don't cast porcelain skin Snow White as fucking, you know, a Mexican. But anything else you want to add,
Girl, they
Robert?
got to recast in the Rita Moreno role in West Side Story.
You want to add anything else, Robert, or are we good to move on?
There's a reason Disney has not released that trailer onto YouTube. They are terrified of what will happen when that gets seen by everyone. And they should be. It looks like ass.
I was going to say, we are about to have a world record thumbs down on YouTube.
This might surpass Ghostbusters Answer the Call. And I thought that was a record that would stand for a really long time.
I don't think they're in the David Zaslav thing where they've now cut so many things the IRS is investigating them for fraud. But I do think Disney should just cut bait with both Snow White and Captain America 4. Just take your losses, write them down, say, better luck next time. But both movies are now costing a fortune, and they can't get it right. And I don't think they're saving either one of them. Not to mention the fact that I don't think anyone is going to draw an audience. I don't think anyone gives a fuck about Captain America 4. And I don't think anyone gives a fuck about the Snow White movie.
The fact that they're reshooting Captain Falcon for the fourth time.
Mm-hmm.
And
you would think they would have learned their lesson with Indiana Jones and Just Kill Me Now.
Well, they can't seem to get it right. And the fact that it's being written by the same guy that wrote Falcon and Winter Soldier, and boy, does that show have a lot of writing problems. Like, that should tell you a giant chunk of what's wrong here.
Yeah. All right.
It doesn't help that you saddled poor Anthony Mackie with the baggage of turning into the next Captain America, which, I'm sorry, no. It's a terrible decision.
Well, folks, that's our discussion of Snow White and Captain America 4. Tune in next year where we
$500 million between those two at least. At least $500 million.
Just walk away, Disney. Be like the Joker, light it all on fire and walk away.
At least keep somebody. If you burned it, you could have at least kept someone warm.
Yeah, it was 40 degrees in Florida. You could have kept me warm today. All right, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, the critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Oh, there's our classic definition of fair to middling.
Yeah, that's about right.
We have 64% on the tomato meter for top critics. All critics, it's slightly higher at 64%.
Yeah, top is 60. Again, that tracks.
All audience is 81. Verified audience is 87. And the
That's
AI
about right.
writes, riding high on a wave of stunning animation. Nope. Even when its story runs adrift. Did fucking Zach write this? Moana 2.
I was going to say, what do we do when the AI becomes the Tick Bird review?
Moana
Understand what we're in for the rest of this segment.
My God, it looks like the story is drowning. Moana 2 isn't as inspired as the original, but still delights as a colorful adventure. I got your colorful adventure. It's in my shorts. All right.
I almost said something very unkind there.
Must be a day that ends in Y, asshole. All right, Kevin. Speaking of assholes, Kevin Carr, fat guy at the movies.
Nice segue.
Thank you. This is a rare sequel that doesn't feel like a retread.
Yes, it does.
Did you watch the same movie, Kevin? Enriching the characters and offering them an exciting adventure filled with magic and monsters. Oh,
no.
Kevin.
I'm so glad you enjoyed the Batwoman and the giant clam.
You read copy.
This is weak even for you, buddy. Get in the locker.
Speaking of weak even for you, Doug Walker of Channel Awesome. A very by-the-book sequel, but I think its goal is to look nice, sound nice, and have a story that's interesting enough for a pleasant adventure. On that level, it succeeds.
No, it doesn't.
Wow.
Look, man, the original at least had some impetus for the adventure with the spreading corruption. This is just like the vague notion that if we stay isolated, our population will eventually dwindle because the genetic pool is not diverse enough, which, don't get me wrong, is true, but That's a weak impulse for a big adventure.
Sarah Michelle Fetters of MovieFreak.com, top critic. Moana 2 is hardly smooth sailing, but it does have its charms.
It's not wrong, but that's kind of a useless review.
Eric Martian of Rogers TV. Everything about this clammy continuation sing cynical cash-in.
Okay, I'm just gonna go get the news and get this over with.
I mean, again, not entirely wrong, but man, that's a bit jaded even for me.
Ayelet Dekel of Midnight East. Moana 2 is a visually appealing, entertaining adventure, yet never goes beyond. Ugh.
I got nothing for you.
The Richard Krause of Richard Krause. While the sequel Law of Diminishing Returns is in effect in Moana 2, it's still a beautifully animated, tuneful, exciting, kid-friendly action movie with good messages of the importance of community and connection.
In the broadest possible terms, maybe. That's not... I mean, even for Disney, this is painting with a broad brush, and y'all are just toothless in your criticism.
Dana Stevens of Slate, top critic. Moana 2 seems more like a consumer product. You think?
Indeed.
In some subtle but unmistakable way than the first film did.
It's not subtle.
And in other news, the sky is blue.
Yeah, there's not a lot subtle about how kind of just cheap consumerism is going on here.
Ashley Liberto of LA Weekly Village Voice did bath salts before watching this movie. The new Moana is so confusing it makes you seasick, or just sick of the characters.
Yeah, you were high.
You were not sober when you did this.
One of my favorite punching bags, Nick Johnston of Vanyaland. Whatever Moana 2 is, it's not passionless content. It's just not as revelatory as it was the first time.
No, it's pretty passionless content, my man.
I'm guessing he just really didn't like the first film either.
Probably not. There's a lot of people who there were a lot of people who were not very fair to that first one, and I think they're trying to make up ground on this one because they realize how wrong they were.
Jackson Weaver of CBC News. While it may have worked as a cable TV spinoff, as it is, Moana 2 is at best subpar escapism. At worst, it's an anger-inducing waste of time.
Okay, it's not anger.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think you're a little harsh there, dude.
Yeah, nothing about this should be anger-inducing. Like, it doesn't matter that much, my man.
Amy Amantagelo of Paste Magazine, top critic, makes me retract everything I said about women and what they deserve as good content. She is Moana, and frankly, she deserves a little more respect than this.
Please don't judge the rest of my gender by this idiot.
That is a terrible pull for this set for your blurb, and I imagine if that's the best they could do, the rest of it I would need to eat paste to follow.
Speaking of eating paste, Grace Randolph of Beyond the Trail.
There's your segue of the night.
I like that.
A Greek mythology approach to the storytelling, bringing in more Polynesian gods and making Moana more than the hero of her own story, all while not diminishing Maui's role. An impressive feat. The songs are just okay, but the rest of the film is very strong.
We all know that Grace is okay with any film as long as it has a strong female protagonist.
Well, Grace, you used to be someone worth at least somewhat watching, and that is just... I don't know what happened to her over the last 5 years or so, but man... downhill.
Another favorite punching bag, Travis Hobson of Punch Drunk Critics. Everything about Moana 2 feels lesser, and like it was hacked apart with a chainsaw and then stitched together. Well,
that's a bit much.
He's close. He's close.
Yeah, the first one, absolutely true. The second one, that's a bit harsh.
The future ex-Mrs. Robert Winfree, Tanya Lamb of Lola Lamb Chops. There are a lot of weaknesses in Moana 2, but enough positives to outweigh them. She may not always know the way, but a more mature Moana is always willing to find one.
You keep snorting like that, you're going to give yourself a fucking deviated septum.
That is a very poorly constructed sentence.
Jeremy Johns of JeremyJohns.com, the future ex-Mr. Alexis Hejna. This movie had its cute enough moments, exciting enough action sequences, even had a moment of heart by the end, but there's nothing threading these moments into a plot, forming an adventure worth going on or praying for.
He's
Paying.
not wholly
Paying for.
wrong.
Yeah, I was like, I'm with him on this one.
We're mostly in agreement there. Look, this is something you're going to plop your kids in front of, and they're going to have a good time. And you know what? That is not nothing. It really isn't. But it's okay to say that's all it is.
Rafer Guzman of Newsday, top critic, Newsday, former newspaper. As in the first film, Moana won't use her might to vanquish a foe. Instead, she'll use her wits to solve a problem. Thank you, sir.
How profoundly useless.
Again, it's like, do we yell at you for being an idiot, or do we yell at the website for not knowing how to pull the proper blurb?
Yeah. I don't know, but how about both? You both suck.
All right. Eric Goldman of Eric Goldman, YouTube. It's not as good as the first, and the songs aren't as memorable, yet it's still an entertaining, fulfilling, crowd-pleasing sequel. Moana herself remains a wonderful movie heroine.
Yeah. Wonderful's a bit stretched for this version of her.
All right. Well, folks, that is our review of Moana 2. This Thursday,
Electric Boogaloo.
Dorian Price is hosting his first triple feature. He did an on trial. Now he's doing a triple feature. Let's see if he actually shows up to his own review. And we are sticking with comic book adaptations. We are looking at Dick Tracy, The Shadow, and The Phantom. And what do these all have in common? They are not Batman 1989, but boy, did they want to be.
I'm going to tell you again, man. That's a wild misread of The Phantom.
Yeah, having watched The Phantom, I can see, like, that one aesthetically differs a little bit. No, it's certainly not The Shadow or Dick Tracy.
Oh, no. Shadow, 1,000,000% Shadow is trying to be that.
I'm pretty sure they recycled some of Danny Elfman's fucking score.
I would bet the sets are reused as well, would be my guess.
Yeah. Those three in one after another were kind of a rough watch. At least The Phantom somewhat stood out. So Jonas had a field day making fun of The Phantom.
Well, here's the thing about The Phantom.
Mm-hmm.
It is a comic movie in the way that Marvel would get to it later. Like, it actually leans into being a comic movie, so everything's brightly colored.
Yeah. That was kind of his thing. He was like, why would he wear this purple outfit in the fucking jungle? And I'm like, all right, Jonas, just go with it.
It's Billy Zane. He's awesome.
Yeah, Billy Zane is great.
Yeah, my 10-year-old knows Billy Zane from fucking Billy Idol.
Go show them Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight.
No.
It's also like it's a really good adventure flick. Like, they actually do globetrotting fairly well.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I was getting Indiana Jones vibes from it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Isn't it written by one of the same guys who worked on one of the Indiana Jones films? Because I could hang on.
Probably.
I swear to God, because I remember someone did a review of it, and they pointed out how many scenes are directly like shot for shot from Indiana Jones.
Well, you're doing that all, and then this Sunday, Sessions is back. My favorite podcast to do these days. Oh boy, and this it's about the moments, people. Sessions is really just about the moments here in the 20-year history of the Radulich Broadcasting Network.
So it's in your shorts?
Yes. And as with all good moments. And it was brought up on this podcast. I mentioned The Wire once or twice over the years.
Yes.
No,
Phantom
really?
was written by Jeffrey Bone. Same guy who wrote Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, along with The Lost Boys, Lethal Weapon 2 and 3, Inner Space, and The Dead Zone.
Oh, he wrote Inner Space? I'm possessed! It's a great movie. Anyway.
Best adaptation of Fantastic Voyage yet.
So anyway, we're going to be talking about how I already have lyrics for it. I already threw my lyrics into ChatGPT. We are ready to go. I got artwork all set up for this. This next sessions is creating a song that reflects my incessant calling out of The Wire in whatever podcast I'm doing. So that'll be fun to do, because we did one too many of these where we were just redoing themes, and I'm like, all right, Jesse, we got to get back to doing the moments here. So that's what's coming up next. And then next Monday we've got Wicked. It'll be myself, Robert, Alexis, Shay, and Mick Wanamaker. Ronnie Adams has dropped off and gone back to his home planet. So it'll just be us talking Wicked, and you'll get to see Robert finally explode on air. It'll be like Daffy Duck.
Yeah, I can't wait to see him hit his breaking point. I'm gonna need that, like a recording of that.
Like I said, the podcast version of Faces of Death.
Which it turns out was mostly fraudulent. So, but hey, who'd know?
And then a week from Wednesday, myself, Jesse, and Alexis will be talking Only Murders in the Building Season 4, which I have not started watching, which I need to. And then Thursday, myself and Robert trying to get in as many, and Mick Wanamaker, trying to get in as many movies that we can before the end of the year. So we have a full range for our top 10. We're doing a triple feature of Strange Darling, Cuckoo, and The Substance, which I've heard is like on everyone's top 10 list. So
I've heard that is a new body horror level of just
Yeah.
WTF.
yeah,
There's a lot of people overinflating it because, yay, I understand the messaging.
okay.
I'm not
Well,
saying it's, for the record, not saying it's bad, but
Chris
it's
Owens
getting
of movies that
overinflated.
don't suck and some that do. It thinks it's the bee's knees. He also thought Strange Darling was the bee's knees. So
Well, Chris
We'll see.
Stuckman also raved over it. Talked about again. He's a huge horror fan. He said it's been a while since we've seen a body horror film really take this level of daring
Mhm.
with it's how scary it is.
Well,
Yeah, there's a lot good about it. I'm just saying that there's a lot of people overinflating it because, oh, it's talking about the artificiality of Hollywood and women's body issues and all these things I can now get on my soapbox about. I'm like, my guys,
you know what's making my top 10 then. This is gonna be my new poor things.
here's the thing about that, Mark.
Mhm.
It might, or body horror is one of the horror things that gets you. So
Well, I'm growing up in my old age. Although
Just
I'll tell you
saying.
what, I made a poor parenting decision. Shut up, Robert. I made a poor parenting decision. Shut up, Robert. Sorry, I'm in a loop. And I watched on the night before Thanksgiving as family entertainment. We did an alternative commentary for Crackoon. And the poor parenting decision was not that I showed him the movie. I mean, it was, but that's not really where the problem lies. The problem lies with I didn't check the IMDb Parents Guide, thinking this will be fine. It'll be just some gross stuff. It'll be nothing he hasn't seen before. Missed the hardcore sex and nudity in Crackoon entirely. And I don't know if you've ever had the pleasure of watching something slightly pornographic with your adolescent children, but I had a moment where I stepped outside of myself and said, "You're a bad parent. How could you let this happen?"
I love how John Oliver put it. It's like
please tell me that you heard that in my voice and I'll just die happy.
I heard it in your voice. You came out of me and said, "You're a bad parent. You brought this on yourself." And I went, "I did. I have no fucking excuse."
No, I just love how John Oliver was like, that's why whenever there's a sex scene in a family movie, everyone just goes rigid and quiet as fuck and prays for the sweet release of death.
You could actually see the panic in my eyes on the alternative commentary as I'm looking at this scene and I'm looking at the camera and going, "Welp, I hope Melissa never takes me to court because I'm going to lose on this alone."
I imagine that, like,
Oh my god.
your poor daughter. Just,
Oh my god, yeah.
did she leave? Please tell me she left the room.
She dug a hole like Bugs Bunny into the couch. Like, "Oh, Pismo Beach, here we go." All right.
I missed that left turn at Albuquerque and I wound up here watching something I did not want to see.
She will go and tell you that being here at my house, she feels safe and secure. Not in that moment, she didn't. In that moment,
No,
she's
just
like,
not anymore.
she's like, "Well, I could go to my house where the mold is, or I could stay and watch this crap with my father."
Medical bills aren't that bad.
But your black mold gets a bad rap.
All right. Speaking of black mold, Alexis, do your plugs.
Oh, go to hell. All right. In addition to Only Murders in the Building, we also got a TV party tonight coming up for the Penguin. I think Dorian is
Penguin.
on that one with me, but I actually need to find more victims. So, either of you interested in discussing the Penguin?
I'm
I
a
haven't
hard
seen.
maybe.
I haven't seen all of it yet, so I don't know. If you're desperate, you said Thursday.
Hang on. When did I have that scheduled? Come to me, calendar. Tuesday, the 17th.
Give me a week. Like, get back to me a week before. If you still need somebody else, I'll I'll rewatch what I have watched and then just binge through the rest of it if you need somebody.
I'll tell you what. We'll talk when we review Wicked next week.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, I got that. Other than that, I'm trying to survive this month because it is holiday sales and Honeysuckle Rose Creations for Fashion Meets Fandom here at the intersection of geek and chic. We just started our Black Friday holiday sale and it's already been getting crazy. I currently have over 40 orders that I need to work on tonight. Everything on both of our shops is currently 25% off. That's our Etsy store and our Handmade at Amazon shop. These third journal earrings. Either one of you watch Gravity Falls?
No.
Okay. I am making so many pairs of these things. I am getting order after order after order for these. It's like all I see is...
Are they haunting your dreams yet?
I'm waiting for it. I'm waiting to wake up screaming. It's like one of these days, we're going to be at the old folks' home and somebody's going to say, how about we play a game of Scrabble? I am going to lose my mind and they are going to call the men in the white coats to take me away and you will never see me again. But anyway, so yes, today was Cyber Monday. We are extending our sale for one more day. Till tomorrow. So if you haven't had a chance to go on to Etsy or Handmade at Amazon, you're still looking for the perfect gift for someone who loves geeky accessories, come check us out. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, because I officially deleted my Twitter page and I am done with that. Never called it X, never will. And we're on TikTok. Excuse me. Of course, we are still doing our charity drive. Every order that is placed from either of these online stores, we will donate $5 to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. That's going to go until Christmas Eve. Of course, if you want to get your orders in before Christmas, please remember that we are shipping with standard USPS post office. They do have a deadline. They're a little overworked. And if you're one of our fans watching this in Canada, I'm sorry about the postman strike, but unfortunately, until that's resolved, we cannot ship to your country. So, sorry about that.
Hey, Canadians, get rid of Trudeau. Watch a lot of your problems disappear.
David said the same thing when he came to Kansas City to visit.
That man is wildly unpopular, and for good reason. He kind of sucks.
David Wright came to
yeah, didn't you see that picture that I sent you of it was David, me, and Dorian's crew, and we posted online.
That was David in there?
Yeah, he was in town for work. Asked me to I messaged him and I took him out to one of my favorite steakhouses.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, that was the same night as Dorian's birthday party. So I was like, oh my God, we got to go say hi since you're in the freaking country.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Robert. Hey, did you see the card from Saudi Arabia for February 22nd between Bivol and Betabith?
That is a ridiculous. First of all, that's going to go. That is the. Hang on, two things. One, the quality. Oh, chef's
I was going to say.
is,
all I was going to say is that is like the WrestleMania of boxing.
That is the best boxing card in maybe ever. If you look at, like,
top to bottom.
But because it's boxing, that's also going to have the runtime of The Irishman.
Yeah.
And because it's a Saudi boxing card, even Scorsese's going to look at this and go, "Can we hurry this up a little bit?
This is a bit excessive.
Do we need another musical interlude?"
It's going to start at noon on Saturday and end noon Saturday the following week.
I'm just imagining okay, you remember that intermission from Monty Python and the Holy Grail with that cheesy organ music? Mm-hmm. I'm just imagining mid-punch all of a sudden do like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there will be a bunch of pointless musical acts because that's what the Saudis do when they do this kind of thing. And it's the actual boxing will be top tier, and everything else about that is probably going to suck.
Well, it's better than what we have for boxing lately.
Which one?
She's bitching about fucking Jake Paul and Tyson.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. Are we no longer complaining about that? I missed the memo.
I never complained about it. I was like, go Netflix.
Go Netflix nothing. They kept crashing.
Right.
Yes, go Netflix. Come on.
Yeah, work.
Robert and I had a lengthy discussion about this. We're not revisiting it now.
As for my stuff, you can find me covering mixed martial arts and professional wrestling over at 411mania.com. There was no UFC event this last Saturday, so instead I got tapped to cover a WWE Survivor Series. That's my third year in a row doing that pay-per-view.
You poor bastard. By the way, the Bloodline versus Roman's crew was actually a really good match.
Yes, it was. The women's war game was really rough for the first two-thirds.
When did they decide that Io Shirai has to dive in a fucking trash can every time?
Same reason Kofi Kingston almost gets eliminated spot
Like
in
the
the
first
Rumble.
time she did it was great and hilarious and awesome. Now it's a bit like, and I kind of looked at my kids. I'm like, oh look, she's doing the trash can thing again. And even my kids are like, who don't remember any of this stuff or know what I was talking about, like, oh hum. They painted the trash can. That's how that's how like hackneyed this bit is. They had to paint the trash can to make it look bedazzled.
Look, WWE's war games are all full of tropes that are really tiring at this point.
Yeah.
That the first 2/3 of that match are just rough. Really rough.
Right, moving on. I just needed to tell you the thing about Survivor Series because actually
That's fine.
I'm home now on the weekends.
But yeah, Shinsuke Nakamura is basically a Mortal Kombat character at this point, and God bless him, I love him for it.
Okay. Yeah, poor LA Knight.
Don't feel bad for LA Knight.
Let me talk to you.
He got to drop Logan Paul on his head repeatedly. Like, don't feel bad for LA Knight. He had a decent run with the belt.
So you
Okay,
covered
we're
Survivor
almost
Series,
at
what
2
else?
hours on
I
this.
know. I'm
guys.
moving them
Yeah,
on
yeah.
already. I'm moving them on. Shut up.
It's like we have gone on way longer than we should have for this movie.
So again, you can find my review of Survivor Series where everybody thinks I was too nice to the show.
You can't.
I'm not.
win, man.
I'm not even kidding. Like, I gave it a good rating because I thought the strength of the last few matches was elevated it.
And people give you shit anyway, huh? You can't win, pal.
Look, as long as I understand where they're coming from, I don't care if they disagree with me.
Move on to the next thing.
So this Saturday there will be UFC 310, the last UFC pay-per-view of the year, headlined by the flyweight title. Alexandre Pantoja defending against Kaya Sakura. It's a good fight. Co-main event of Shavkat Rakhmonov and Ian Gary. That's a fine enough substitute after Bilal Muhammad got injured. Bilal Muhammad in a CM Punk t-shirt at the WWE event was just hilarious. No pop for that man for deserved reasons. He does not have a fan-friendly style. He's boring. Effective, but boring. So my full preview of that is over at the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast. I also talk about the results from the PFL season finale that took place because there was some good stuff to talk about there. Including Dakota Ditcheva, who just might be the best flyweight outside of the UFC. Is the best flyweight outside of the UFC. One of the better in the world. So give that a listen if you're interested in the wide, wacky, wonderful world of mixed martial arts. Let me see. I've also got, again, SmackDown this Friday, so tune in for that. We are post-Survivor Series, and we don't have a pay-per-view until the Royal Rumble.
This is in like March.
January. What the
It's like the ass end of January though. It's like not for a while.
I forget exactly what day, but it's always in January.
I know, but I remember like being like way far out normal than it normally is.
It might be. So tune in for that. They're going to be building up. They're going to keep building up Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens because that's main eventing Saturday night's main event because that's a thing we're trying to get off the ground again. So yeah, that's where you can find me. Wicked next week. Wicked. I'm going to
Immolate.
no. I'm not
yourself?
going to combust. I
was gonna say,
will
can we start a betting pool here? It's like, okay, so we got 5 on cyanide pills, 10 on the noose, 11 on a gun.
If I was gonna do it, it'd be the gun. First of all, I've thought about that.
You realize I'm going to be like Vince McMahon. If you kill yourself on the podcast, I'm going to keep going as I'm dragging your carcass away.
I appreciate that you would do that to me, Mark.
Dragging his carcass
really
away.
do.
I figured
Would
you're going to set him up like Weekend at Bernie's kind of a thing.
Like, run to Utah. Everything stinks. All right, Robert.
You could. Here's what you'll do. You'll just put the sunglasses on my body, and you'll get an AI voice generated clip of me to speak to you. And
Yeah,
you'll-
I'll throw like 10 damn you Hollywoods into Notebook LM and be like, here, make Robert comments about Wicked.
Yep. Okay, on a more serious note, this might be the closest I get to drinking in my entire life is reviewing this movie.
Oh, now this is definitely going to be fun to watch.
Because I don't, and I never will, but this movie is 2 hours and 40 minutes long.
And it's only part one.
Robert, what are you drinking? Turpentine. I can't drink alcohol.
Well, there's bleach over here somewhere.
All right. When Robert drinks bleach, that is the phrase that pays here on the Radulich Broadcasting Network. So, for Robert's impending doom, for Alexis, who was well behaved tonight, good girl, I am got to go edit now. Be well, be safe, and behave.